The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeff Cobb, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here, solo this week. On today's show, I'll review nights 1 through 5 of World Tag League and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. Chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And I am streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP and Grade 1 subscribers this week. If you want access to our weekly video live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. And like I mentioned in the intro, I am flying solo this week. Young boy Josh Smith was not feeling well, so he's not going to be on the show this week. Going to do it solo. And, you know, it's World Tag League season, so it was not easy to find a last-minute replacement to cover World Tag League. Not a lot of people are watching it and not really prepared to talk about World Tag League. But I know I am all caught up. I've seen up to the latest Cork and Hall show. So we'll go through all that. And I know a lot of people want to know about the recommended matches, how the tournament's going, what they should watch. So we'll get into all of that here on this week's episode. And, you know, earlier I did plug our Chop Tea store. Just want to let you know there is going to be a Black Friday sale coming up. And it's actually going to be starting on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I believe, through the following Wednesday, a whole week of discounts over at chop-tees.com. So unisex tees and tops will be 20% off if you buy 2 or more. There will be discounts on hats. Buy 2 or more, 20% off there as well. 15% off of the hoodies and premium pullovers and classic zips. If you buy 2 or more, those as well. If you buy 2 or more, you get 20% off there. Buy one that's 15% off. 15% off baseball tees. 15% off of tumblers, mugs, pillows, and fanny packs. 15% off premium apparel. So lots of great sales coming up at chop-tees.com. So you can go to our store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can find all of our Keeping It Strong Style stuff. We have a lot of great shirts on there as well as the Social Suplex brand. So if you go to chop-tees.com/Social Suplex, that's where you can see all the merch for shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. A lot of great merch between One Nation Radio, All Things Elite, Imp's WWE Adventure, the AEW Match Guide, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, Wrestle Art with Chris Things. Lots of great shirts, hats, hoodies, There's a Tunnel Talk pillow and tumbler. So there's a ton of great stuff. Shout out to our man Dickie Bird, who got us hooked up there on Chop Tees. Has a lot of great merchandise for us. So show some love to Social Suplex and Keeping It Strong Style this coming week by grabbing some merch over at chopped-tees.com/social suplex. All right, so that is the merch plug. Let's jump into World Tag League. So we had nights 1 through 5 this week, and we'll get into that. But first, we did have a comment/question here from the Discord daddy, MJ Does PR. He says, the highlight of Tag League for me has been the Young Lions singles challenges. Daiki Nagai is clearly the best of the bunch, but would like to hear your thoughts on the rest of the group and how they're coming along. So on this World Tag League tour, they've been kind of doing a little mini Young Lions Cup kind of round robin. I mean, it's not an official Young Lions Cup, it's not an official tournament, but every night there has been an opening Young Lions match with between Chomakato, Masatora Yasuda, and Daiki Nagai, where the other Young Lions have been in multi-man action. These three in particular have been kind of doing a round robin kind of face off, and every night they're facing each other. So I'll talk about the results, and then I'll go into my thoughts on these guys. So night 1, we had Shomakato getting his first career victory, defeating Masatora Yasuda in 7 minutes, 7 seconds. Then on night 2, we had Daiki Nagai versus Masatora Yasuda going to a 10-minute time limit draw. Then on night 3, we had Shomakato once again picking up a victory, this time defeating Daiki Nagai in 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Then on night 4, we had another draw with Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda. And then on night 5, Shomakato defeated Daiki Nagai in 8 minutes and 35 seconds. So big thing here is Shomakato getting 3 straight wins in a row and getting his first 3 wins in his career, which is it's a pretty big deal. He is one of the elder statesmen of the current crop of Young Lion. And, I got to say, a lot of people have their eyes set on Daiki Nagai. And, of course, I see it. He's super aggressive. He cuts, awesome promos. He has that kind of young, evil Minoru Suzuki look to him and super fiery, super aggressive. But I do feel like Shomakato has stepped it up here in these matches and with these wins, and I think he's gotten a lot better. I know Josh and I were critical of him and Murashima when they first started, and we were of the opinion that Nagai and Yasuda were kind of already catching up to those guys. But I do feel like Shomakato really stepped his game up here and looked really good in these matches, as well as Yasuda looked good as well. So I think we have a really good crop of Young Lions here. And, if you're watching these tours or you're looking for stuff to cherry pick, I definitely recommend watching these Young Lion matches. I know that they're only, 7-8 minutes. Obviously, none of these are, 4 stars, 5 stars. You're not going to run and put these in a notebook. These are not going to be match of the year contenders or anything, but you see these guys grow and develop, and I think it means so much more when you follow these guys from the beginning of their career in this Young Lion stage, and to see them go on excursion and come back from excursion and debut, and kind of seeing that whole career journey. And plus, you just never know what breadcrumbs are going to come from these matches. Right now, Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda are, kind of the rivals of the current crop of Young Lions. They're in the same class, and so you never know. These guys might come back and end up being kind of career rivals, similar to what we've seen with Tetsuya Naito and Kazuchika Okada when they were Young Lions, and then going on excursion and coming back, and of course, kind of always being pitted against each other. So it's always interesting to get in early, get in on the ground floor with these guys, and just see how they develop. But yeah, they're all looking good. I feel like all 3 guys showed a lot of intensity, a lot of aggression here, especially at Daiki Nagai really killing it with the strikes. There was a lot of matches here where he was hitting big open palm strikes and just throwing bombs. And so, yeah, these guys are all looking really good. Definitely recommend watching the Young Lion matches from this tour. Well, I'm going to jump into the tag league here. So, like we normally do when we have a tournament in progress with multiple nights, I'm going to go through the standings, talk about the matches that each team has had over these 5 nights, and answer any questions that have come up. So we'll start in the A block. So on top of the A block right now, we have the United Empire team of Jeff Cobb and Callum Newman. They are 3-0 with 6 points. So on night 1, we had them defeating Shota Umino and Tomioka Hanma in 9 minutes and 16 seconds. On night 3, they defeated Funky Sauce, the team of Alex Zane and Ryusuke Gucci. And then on night 5, Cork and Hall, they defeated the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens and Kenta. So yeah, I feel like Cobb and Newman have been a really solid team. It's that traditional power guy with the high flying guy, and they've put together a really good team. And, you know, this might be one of the better United Empire combos. I know in the past we've seen Cobb and Okan, and obviously Okan and Hinare are currently the tag champions, are over in the B block. But, you know, obviously besides a team like Aussie Open, I feel like when you look at the current crop of the United Empire heavyweights, I feel like Cobb and Newman, they're putting together a really solid tag team, having some really impressive wins. So yeah, 3-0 right now. You know, Jeff Cobb is the NJPW World TV Champion, and he's going to be going into Wrestle Kingdom to defend that title against Rei Oiwa and Ren Narita. Actually, he's going to be challenging. He's not champion anymore. I keep forgetting that. Ren Narita, he's the champion. Narita will be defending against Cobb and Oiwa. But Cobb, also he has a Wrestle Kingdom spot. Callum Newman looking for a spot on the card, and I mean, potentially could it wind up with a tag team title match the way that these guys are going, with 3 wins and with 6 points. They are on top of the block, and I don't see them winning the tournament just because of, you know, Cobb being in that TV title picture, and I don't think that they're going to push a tag title match to Wrestle Dynasty, because obviously that seems to be more, in a promotional matchup. So I do think in this next coming up week, we'll see these guys probably start eating losses. Let's see how many teams we have in each block. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in each block. So that means that they have 5 matches left. So there's still plenty of time for them to kind of even out, probably eat some losses. I can see them ending up with more of an even record. Actually, so they have they have 4 matches left. So, I mean, they could probably end up maybe winning 1 more. I can see them losing 3, ending up with 8 points, still having a respectable total, but eventually being eliminated. I mean, they could also be a strong team. I guess they could go to the finals and lose in the finals, but I don't think they're going to get there just with the champions being in the B block. And I know they're on commentary, they've been teasing, you know, a lot of intra-brand, inter-faction potential finals. There's a lot of, you know, United Empire teams in here. There's a lot of LIJ teams, a lot of Bullet Club teams. But I do think at some point these guys are going to lose momentum. I mean, it's the Gato one-on-one booking where, you know, a team or a wrestler goes super hot at the beginning. They go on a win streak, undefeated streak, and then they eventually start losing and even out and don't end up going into the finals. So, again, Cobb and Newman looking really good. There's not really any of their matches I would say you need to go out of your way and watch. I mean, if I had to pick one, it would probably be the Umino and Hanma match. The Funky Sauce match was fine. Owens and Kenta match was fine. But overall, I do feel like Cobb, especially Newman, is working really hard and looking really impressive. So the following team, we have the Bishamon team of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. They're currently sitting at 2-1 with 4 points. So on night 1, they defeated Chase Owens and Kenta. On night 3, they defeated the LIJ team of Shingo and Yota Tsuji. And then on night 5, they lost to Shota Umino and Tomioka Hanma in 17 minutes and 6 seconds. So Bishamon, they are the three-peat World Tag League champions, winning the league in 21, 22, and 23. So they are working on winning this tournament for 4 years in a row, and they have a very good chance of doing that. They're sitting with 4 points, so very much still alive, only eating one loss in the tournament. And these guys are what they are. They're a great, solid tag team, and honestly, even though they've won the World Tag League 3 years in a row now, I still feel like they're a very underrated tag team. When you hear people talking about tag team of the year, who are the best tag teams in wrestling, I do feel like Bishamon still gets overlooked just because maybe New Japan's not as hot as it used to be. Maybe there's not a lot of people that are currently watching New Japan as they are watching, AEW and WWE and some of the bigger promotions. But I do feel like Bishamon is this team that they go out there, they have the great tag team maneuvers, they know how to cut the ring off, they do a great job of getting sympathy. A lot of times I think it's Yoshihashi that's getting beat down and Goto has to make the save, and sometimes it's Goto in that role and Yoshihashi has to make the save. And I feel like they're so great at kind of calling the plays and making the last minute saves and getting those great false finishes where you think the match is going to be over, and then out of nowhere in the corner, one of these guys flies out, makes a save, and great double team combos. I love how they combine a lot of their finishing moves together. You have that that double team GTW and GTR. You have the Shoto. So yeah, Bishamon, really solid tag team, very entertaining. I think they're still underrated. I think they are one of the best tag teams going in wrestling today. And they're doing their thing right now in World Tag League. Out of this match, out of this week, I would say if you want something to watch, definitely check out the match with Shingo and Tsuji, and as well as the night 5 match with Umino and Hanma in Cork and Hall. And we'll talk about that team next, but yeah, that was a really compelling matchup because I feel like, we talked about it last week with Hanma as Umino's partner. People are expecting Hanma to eat a lot of losses, to get pinned a lot, and for this team to lose a lot, and that's not exactly what's been happening. And with Umino and Hanma, when I was watching this match, I was like, they're facing Bishamon, established team. This is definitely going to be a Bishamon win, but that wasn't the case here. Umino got the pin on Hiroki Goto with Death Rider, so picking up some momentum for Umino there. But I feel like that was a really compelling tag team match, just with the near falls down the stretch, because like I mentioned earlier, Goto and Yoshihashi, they're hitting all these big double team moves all the time in their matches, and so they're running through all the moves and they're hitting these big moves on both these guys. And there was a sequence towards the end where Umino and Goto were in there mixing it up and looking really good. And Hanma, he would get in there and people would think that they're going to finish off Hanma, and they don't. And then Hanma, he's firing back, rocket Kakeshis. And he's getting a lot of momentum. And so this was a really kind of emotional matchup here. And so for them to kind of get the upset win over the 3P champions was an interesting booking play there. But we'll talk about them more in a second. But also the Shingo and Tsuji match. Also, these were all 4 hard hitters, kind of your never style tag team match. So these guys were out here swinging, throwing the fences, and it was a hard hitting, solid tag team match where Bishamon got the win. So, like I mentioned, sitting at 4 points, they are very much still alive in this thing. And shout out to everybody that's jumping on the stream right now. If you're just joining in, I am solo this week, running through World Tag League right now. So, Bishamon, like I said, they're 4 points, very much still in contention to potentially win this block and even go to the finals again. And even as we sit right now, I still think that they are one of the favorites to win this block. And honestly, I could see them going 4 in a row. We know that Gato loves the kind of booking pattern of really establishing people by having them win multiple tournaments in a row. We've seen that with Okada. We've seen that with some other guys in the past. And so I do think that Bishamon could be that team, especially if you're trying to establish these guys as the best New Japan tag team of the last 10 or so years. I think you give them that 4th World Tag League win, it kind of really establishes them and sets them apart from every other tag team. So moving on to the next team here in the A block, Shota Umino and Tomoaki Honma, who are sitting at 2-1 with 4 points. So on night 1, they defeated Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb. Actually, they lost to Newman and Cobb. And then on night 3, they defeated Zack Sabre Jr. and Roy Oiwa. And then, like I mentioned, on night 5, they defeated the Bishamon team of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. So, when we were first talking about Umino and Honma last week and during the preview, we were very down with that team, especially I was, because I feel like it didn't make a ton of sense to put Umino in there with such a weak tag team partner. You're going into this build into the Tokyo Dome, and you're wanting to get Umino hot, and in my opinion, it just didn't seem like it made the right sense to go with Honma, a guy that's obviously a pin eater, going to eat a lot of losses. And so, I was questioning this booking call of having him go on with Honma, but hey, right now they're 2-1 and they're winning more than they're losing. So Umino picking up this big win on night 3, so that's when they were going against Sabre and Oiwa, and obviously Sabre and Umino, they're going to be facing off at Wrestle Kingdom for the title, and this was a great preview match for that. And I thought that Zack and Umino looked great in here. The way they're mixing it up, and a lot of the sequences and reversals they were doing. Lots of big strikes. I mean, Zack and Umino both exchanging some big open palm strikes. Lots of counters out of the Zack driver, out of the Death Rider, out of the European clutches, out of the STF that Umino uses. So these guys, I thought they worked at a very high pace, and I feel like Umino is really kind of kicking it into gear here. And I do feel like this match helped a lot in building up some heat for their matchup. And I know that maybe not everybody in the West is watching the World Tag League or watch this match, but I feel like after watching this, I know the match will be great. And the match was actually the quality of the match was never really in question. We've seen these guys wrestle several times now, especially this year, and I feel like they've had great matches. And there's no doubt in my mind that Umino and Zack can have a great match. I think it's more of the way that the match came about and kind of what they've done with Umino the rest of the year. Had he been booked stronger this year, I don't think people would be complaining or be worried or have questions about this Wrestle Kingdom matchup. But I feel like he's showing a lot of fire right now. And this matchup here where a lot of the focus here was on Umino and Zack. I believe there was even one point where, Honma kind of had to, be like, hey, remember it's a tag match. And Honma kind of had, in a way, kind of to force himself into the matchup. But yeah, the closing stretch there with Umino and Zack going at it. And then Umino ends up hitting the Death Rider on Zack. 1, 2, 3. So he gets that big pinfall on Zack, his Wrestle Kingdom opponent, and showing the world that he can beat Zack Sabre Jr., which he's actually beaten Zack a few times this year in different scenarios. So he's continuing to show that he has Zack's number. He can beat Zack Sabre Jr., and showing that it's not a fluke that he's in the Wrestle Kingdom main event. So I definitely say go out of your way to if you want a cherry pick to watch that matchup. That was 22-minute, really great back and forth matchup there. And then the Bishamon match. It's also another match to go out of your way to watch. Because again, that match was set up really well and was just a lot of emotions there towards the end. Even Honma was crying, it seemed like, after they won, and I think maybe even he's surprised, in kayfabe, that he's on a winning team here. And so I'm glad that they're having Umino and Honma winning more than they're losing. Also, they only had 3 matches so far, so obviously there's still plenty of time for them to change course. But right now they're doing the right thing. They're having Umino pick up important pinfalls, so pinning Zack Sabre Jr., pinning Hiroki Goto, also a former champion and former several tournament winner, a guy that's a really good guy for Umino to pin there. And so he's pinning important people, and it seems like he's getting over. So they're making the right call here. Ultimately, I don't see these guys winning the tournament. I want to see them continue to win, and I think it's important for Umino to continue to pick up wins and build more momentum towards a dome. But right now with 4 points, they're in a good spot. But I could see them. Hanma, he is the weak link of this team, and he was the one who got pinned in that matchup against Cobb Newman. Cobb hitting the Tour of the Islands on him. So I do think as they go forward in the rest of the league, Hanma is going to be that weak link, and he will probably eat some pins. But they are showing that they have some confidence in Umino, and that they will have Umino pick up some wins as well. So moving on to the next team, we have the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr., teaming up with Rei Oiwa, and they are also sitting at 2-1 with 4 points. So on night one, you had Oiwa and Sabre defeating the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Gabe, Kidd, and Sonata. They then went on to night 3, where they lost to Umino and Hanma. And then on night 5, bouncing back by defeating the Funky Sauce team of Alex Zane and Ryusuke Taguchi. And before I continue on with those guys, I did skip over a question here that I had from Last Commission 7252. And this is coming from the angle that happened after the Umino and Hanma versus Bishamon match. So that match was in Corcoran Hall. After the match, we got a video playing from Claudio Castagnoli. He is going to be the guy that Jon Moxley is sending to face Shota Umino at Wrestle Dynasty on January 5th. And that match has been made official, so it will be Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli, January 5th, Wrestle Dynasty. So they played that video there. So Les Commission asked, he says, after seeing the Claudio Castagnoli video, he shot at Umino, where's the program between Moxley and Umino going? Dominion, Forbidden Door? I honestly think that they should have done the match at Wrestle Dynasty. Yeah, I do think that it would have made more sense to do the next Umino Moxley match at Wrestle Dynasty, and just considering their history, they already had that title match this year at Resurgence. I think that was in May. And also, there's a long story and history here between Umino and Moxley, and I feel like Wrestle Dynasty would have been a good stage for the next chapter of their story. But clearly, it seems like Moxley might not even be coming to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom weekend. Mox is usually a guy that is involved with Wrestle Kingdom and is brought in for these interpromotional shows. So with him just sending Claudio, it's seeming like he won't be involved at all, which is a little weird. But I'm guessing that maybe they do draw it out to Forbidden Door. I don't know if Moxley's going to be making any more trips to Japan anytime soon. Obviously, currently he is the AEW World Champion, which again, as the World Champion, you think he would be involved in Wrestle Dynasty. You will have the New Japan World Champion, whether it is Zack Sabre Jr. or Umino, involved in this thing. So you would think whoever is going to be the AEW champion come January 5th would be involved in the show. Obviously, there's still time for Mox to lose that. Also, we have the World's End pay-per-view coming up December 28th in Orlando. I believe that they're setting up a 4-way title match for that. So, he could drop the belt there. And then also there's Winter is Coming. And that's probably the last big show before Wrestle Dynasty. So if Mox is going to lose the belt, it would have to be sometime in December. So it's going to be interesting to see, will he still come over and he just doesn't want to wrestle Umino, or he's not coming at all. But I do think that this could be a storyline that kind of builds for Forbidden Door. I think one thing that they can do, since, we've kind of passed the era of Forbidden Door where it's all about the dream matches, because obviously there's not really a ton of dream matches right now with the current rosters. I do think one thing they can do to help that is to have these interpromotional stories that kind of build off of these cross-promotional shows that can then build throughout the year and then link to the next show. So if it was me, I think that you kind of build this up for Forbidden Door and do a big Moxley Umino match. And I would say that's a time where Umino should beat Moxley. He came very close in that title match in Resurgence, but I think the next time they face would be a good time to for Umino to defeat Jon Moxley. And I'm going to take a swig of water here for the working man. So that's my thoughts on that. So Sabre and Oiwa, they've been looking really good here this past week. And again, they're sitting at 4 points, only having that one surprising loss there to Umino and Hanma. I really talked about that match. So definitely that's a match to go out and check, especially to watch the Umino and Sabre interactions and sequences. The match with Gabe Kidd and Sonata, that was fine. I mean, obviously, normally Zach and Sonata have good chemistry, but Zach and Gabe Kidd had really good chemistry in this matchup here, and looked really good and got that win over the War Dogs, which is a little surprising. With Gabe and Sonata, you would think that they would want to get them started a little bit hotter with the Sonata turn just happening. And then the Funky Sauce match, I mean, obviously it's Taguchi. It is what it is. Zayn's working hard, and we'll talk about Funky Sauce more in a little bit. But you wouldn't have to go out of your way to watch that matchup. So definitely check out the Hanma and Umino match, and then if you have time, check out the Gabe and Sonata matchup. And I had a question here from Barry Waltz. This Oiwa and his brawl with Gabe Kidd after their match has been a highlight for me. Oiwa stated in an interview in New Japan Training, it's about conditioning and offense, but Noah is more about selling. Do you think his mix of both styles is why so far he has more personality than Umino and Uemura? Do you think sending a wrestler on a local excursion is a good idea to build a native star? I don't know if it's necessarily the mix of styles why Oiwa seems to be clicking more than Umino or Uemura at times. I think he just might have more charisma than those guys. And that obviously charisma is not really something you can teach. Also, I do think it might have helped being in Noah, having that local excursion and being able to connect more with what the Japanese fans want, and really kind of molding his style to what the overall pure audience wants. That definitely could be a good thing. But I do think he kind of had that charisma factor going for him over in Noah, and bring that over and kind of really tapping into that charisma. And so that's something I feel like, especially Uemura doesn't really have kind of that star presence, that charisma, doesn't really at times carry himself as a star, and it's just kind of missing something to his presentation. And then Umino, I think Umino does have charisma, but I just think that at times he leans too much into the guys he's trying to be like. And so I feel with Oiwa, Oiwa's not really trying to be anyone, and he's kind of forged his own style and kind of developed his own persona and has this charisma. And I think that's why, a lot of people have gravitated towards Oiwa and think he's going to be the next ace and he can save New Japan. So moving on to the next team, we had the LIJ team of the Dragon, the never openweight champion, Shingo Takagi, and the number one contender for the IWGP Global Heavyweight title, Yota Tsuji. So these guys, they're also 2-1 with 4 points. So on night one, they defeated Funky Sauce, Alex Zane, and Ryusuke Taguchi. Then on night 3, losing to Bishamon. And then night 5, bouncing back in a matchup against the War Dogs team of Gabe Kidd and Sonata. So another booking pattern here that Gato loves with these block tournaments is to have one block that's kind of the parity block. So we're seeing that here for a lot of teams sitting at 2-1 and 4 points. And another criticism that we had about this tournament when we were previewing it was there's a lot of guys that have Wrestle Kingdom matchups. Like, how do you handle beating these guys without making them look bad or lose momentum? And so far, I think they've been doing a good job at handling the guys that do have Tokyo Dome matchups. And here we have a team with guys that have, both guys have big Tokyo Dome matchups, and they've only eaten one loss here so far. And the loss that they did have, it was not Yota Tsuji eating the loss. It was Shingo Takagi, which we do see a lot of times in block tournaments, champion losing, which could always set up a future title match down the line. And that was a really great matchup between Bishamon and Shingo and Tsuji here, especially towards the ending stretch here. It seemed like Shingo was getting ready to put Yoshihashi away, had him up on the shoulders for the last of the dragon, and then Yoshihashi turned it into his crucifix driver and got the kind of flash upset win over Shingo. So I thought that was a good piece of booking there to protect Yota Tsuji, because I feel like he's a guy you want to really establish and build up. They protected Tsuji there and had Shingo get pinned by Yoshihashi. And that was a really fun, hard-hitting matchup. And who knows, maybe down the line, if Shingo can come out of Wrestle Kingdom weekend with the Never title, maybe that will set up a Yoshihashi title match for New Beginning. Or maybe, if it is Konosuke Takeshita that's leaving Wrestle Kingdom weekend with the Never title, maybe that could end up being a challenger for him. But Tsuji and Shingo looking good here, sitting at 4 points with a lot of the other teams here in this A block. And again, I don't know if they're going to win this thing with both of them having big matches on January 4th, but I think that they will be a strong team to continue to move forward. I can see them end up having more wins than they do losses, but then some kind of tiebreaker keeps them out, and probably maybe the tiebreaker loss over Bishamon. Bishamon also sitting 2-1, and Bishamon are definitely favorites to move forward. So maybe a tie-break loss there could be the thing that keeps Shingo and Tsuji out of the finals here. So moving on to the next team, we have the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Gabe Kidd and Sonata. They're sitting at 1-2 with 2 points. So night 1, losing to Oiwa and Sabre. Night 30, they defeated the Chase Owens and Kenta team. And then on night 5, losing to Shingo and Yota Tsuji. So very interesting here that these guys starting off with a losing record here. And again, I thought that maybe they would have come out a little bit hotter, considering that Sonata just turned heel and they're going in a whole new direction with him, and they're forming this new team of him and Gabe Kidd. But that's not the case here. But I mean, they have looked good, especially Gabe Kidd. Has been very aggressive, and it has been made official. Gabe Kidd will be facing Kenny Omega on January 5th at Wrestle Dynasty. So all throughout these matches here, we're seeing Gabe Kidd taunting Kenny. He's throwing V-triggers and calling out Kenny in the middle of the matches. And there was one match, it was after the night 3 match where they defeated the Bullet Club team of Chase and Kenta. He got the mic and cut a promo on Kenny. So they're really building up this Gabe Kidd Kenny Omega matchup here. And so throughout the matches, he's doing the Kenny moves, he's calling Kenny out. So that should be interesting matchup come Wrestle Dynasty. And then another talking point here, Sonata. So, here we are with, the third try of a makeover here for Sonata. He's coming out with the shades. He bleached the hair. And I mean, I think the thing with Sonata is, I think the look is good. I like his new attire and his new look, but the look has never been the problem. He's always looked good. Even in LIJ, Just Five Guys, he's always had a good look about him. It's all about what happens in the ring. And I just don't feel that this turn has really completely changed him yet. He's still doing a lot of the same kind of Sonata maneuvers and styles. There has been a lot more brawling in these Bullet Club War Dog matches, and so there's a lot of fighting on the outside, which we typically don't see Sonata do. That's a little bit of a change up there, but to me, I don't feel like he's fully. I don't know. There's something off about it. Like, I feel like he's now being referred to as cold-blooded, so kind of going back a bit to the Cold Skull in a way moniker. And I think that kind of worked out in LIJ because LIJ is they are the tranquilo, keep it cool faction, and so for him to kind of be kind of this in a way like lackadaisical, kind of easygoing, not super aggressive guy, I felt like that worked in LIJ. And then that also kind of, I mean, it worked in a way in just 5 guys and being the leader there. But now, Bull Club War Dogs, the aggression is, turn up to 10 with these guys. They're always brawling. They're always hitting hard. There's always the intensity, especially when you got Gabe Kidd in there. And Sonata is not matching or even coming close to the intensity of Gabe Kidd. So, it kind of feels like he's sleepwalking his way through a lot of their walk and brawl sections of the match, where Gabe Kidd is just being super intense and the brawling from his side looks really good. So I feel like Sonata needs to step it up here. And I don't know. It's just a weird call to put him with the War Dogs, and they all the other War Dogs, I feel like their intensity matches. They fit well together, but Sonata right now to me is sticking out like a sore thumb. The night 3 matchup where they had the Bull Club versus Bull Club, so they're facing off against Chase and Kenta here. They attacked these guys from the bell, and this was a wild brawl where they pretty much beat down Chase and Kenta the whole match, and they brawled for majority of the match before the match even started, because this match only clocked in 3 minutes and 50 seconds, but they were brawling up and down way before the bell even rang, and then they got in there and pretty much destroyed Kenta and Chase Owens, and it was Gabe Kidd who pinned Kenta to get the win here. And like I mentioned, he cut that promo afterwards. So lots of aggression there, lots of brawling, and, gone the days of these Bullet Club teams going in there and squeezing each other and pretending to pin each other and finger poke of doom and all that funny ha-ha. Those days are over. We are getting the War Dogs. They're coming in there. They're here to kill. They don't care if you're quote unquote Bull Club. They're coming after you, and that's what we saw here. I wouldn't say you need to really go out of your way to watch that matchup, because there was essentially more of an angle really than a matchup. I would say definitely check out the Oiwa and Saber match was good, and then if you had to pick just one though, I would say watch the Shingo and Yota Tsuji matchup there. Lots of history with Shingo and Sonata with their LIJ pass, a lot of history with Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji with them coming up in the dojo together, especially during that pandemic time. And Tsuji did get a win over Gabe Kidd earlier this year as well. So it was a very hard-hitting matchup. We saw a little bit of miscommunication between Gabe Kidd and Sonata, and after this matchup, it was Sonata who ended up getting pinned. He got hit with the Gene Blast, got pinned by Yota Tsuji, and after the match, Gabe Kidd was like staring a hole down Sonata. It was very upset that Sonata ate the loss here, and Sonata just didn't really seem to care. Like, he just walked past Gabe Kidd to the back, and Gabe Kidd continues to stare a hole in him. And so maybe they're already kind of teasing dissension there with Gabe and Sonata, maybe that will lead to Gabe just having issues in general that finally let Sonata in the War Dogs. And I didn't watch the backstage promo from this show, but maybe there will be some storylines there into what's going to go on with Gabe Kidd and Sonata. But yeah, Gabe was not happy at all with old cold-blooded Sonata. And again, Sonata just did not seem to care. Kind of again having that lackadaisical attitude. It's kind of like Orange Cassidy-esque, except like I guess being lazy is not really Sonata's gimmick, where it is Orange Cassidy's gimmick. And so obviously that works for Orange Cassidy, and obviously Cassidy's really obviously cranked it up more since being in AEW. But with Sonata, he does have a kind of like this lazy kind of tranquilo attitude about him, and that's not, again, that worked in LIJ because that's what the faction was about. But since leaving LIJ, like, it doesn't really work because that's not the gimmick. Like, you're not supposed to be lazy or look like you don't care. And yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of emotion, a lot of aggression, a lot of oomph. There's just Sonata in a Bull Club shirt and bleach blonde hair. And so I would like to see him really kind of own this heel turn and turn up the aggression and intensity and do something different. I did have a question here from the Poopy Man on Blue Sky. It says, while it's only been a few weeks since Sonata left Just Five Guys, what are your thoughts on his working chemistry with the War Dogs and Gabe Kidd? Also, young boy, I saw Sing Sing on a flight back from Japan recently and saw you gave it a 5 on Letterboxd. What a great movie. Keep up the great work. So yeah, Josh will be happy that somebody is checking out his Letterboxd. He puts that thing over on the show every week. So check out his Letterboxd if you're into the rating the movies. But yeah, so I just kind of touched on the whole chemistry with Sonata in the War Dogs and Gabe Kidd. I just don't feel like his energy matches Gabe Kidd's energy, and obviously I know it's hard for anybody really to match the energy of Gabe Kidd, but I mean I do feel like Clark, Indrilla, and Finley do have that edge and intensity and aggression, and maybe they're not as extra as Gabe Kidd, but I do feel like they all mesh and gel, and it all makes sense when you see them together, and the brawling and the team, like it works. And right now, I mean, we haven't really seen Sonata team with, the whole unit yet. And also, there's been a lot of undercard tag matches on these tours. I have not been watching the undercard tag stuff, but we really haven't seen Sonata and Finley work together since this turn. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in once they're doing the big, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 multi-man matchups. Because right now, with just Gabe Kidd, I don't think he's matching that energy. I don't think it's really clicking. And I do think Sonata, he's better off as a tag team wrestler. But this heel turn, at least for me, I don't know if other people are digging it. But again, I just feel like it's just normal. It's Sonata in a Bullet Club shirt. And that seems to be the only thing that's really different. Yes, he is doing a little bit more brawling. He's doing a little bit more cheating. There was a spot in the LIJ match where he did the old Ric Flair donkey kick low blow. So he's doing stuff like that. But, I mean, he did cheat a little bit when he was in LIJ and they were heels at first. So I just feel like there's not a whole ton difference with what he's doing besides obviously wearing black now and having bleach blonde hair. So I would like to see him up the intensity, up the aggression, especially if he's going to be out there with a guy like Gabe Kidd. And I am curious to see what's going to happen with them being 1-2. And yeah, Gabe is very upset that Sonata is the one that caused the last loss. And it does seem like there is going to be friction with that team moving forward. We also had a question here from Barry Walsh. Says, is Kenny wrestling Gabe like a possible worrying sign Greg could be on the AEW radar? So yeah, the Greg there was when Kenny was calling Gabe Greg, acting like he didn't know what Gabe's name was. I mean, it could be. I mean, contract season is coming up for New Japan, and so we know a lot of times contracts usually end around January, February. So I mean, maybe they are looking at him, and that's the reason why this match is happening. But I mean, it is Wrestle Dynasty. There are a ton of cross-branded matches on that show. I mean, you got Jack Perry and Suji. You now have Claudio and Umino. So I don't think like they're trying to sign Umino or Suji right now. I know Tony Khan did mention that he's a fan of Suji, so maybe that one's in the future. But there's a ton of interpromotional matchups on this card where I don't think the goal is, we're going to sign these guys. But I mean, if you're Gabe Kidd, you have to leave the door open. I mean, he is a foreigner and he has the potential to make more money wrestling in America than he does in Japan. New Japan and Japan in general still, the yen's still trying to rebound, and New Japan's still trying to pick business back up and get things back to where they were a few years ago. And, if Tony Khan comes a knocking, I mean, if he really wants Gabe Kidd, he can give him a solid deal that would probably be worth Gabe Kidd's time to, move to America and wrestle in AEW. Also, I don't want to see that happen as a New Japan fan, New Japan podcaster. I mean, I watch AEW every week. I'm an AEW fan, but I do feel like Gabe Kidd fits right now in New Japan, and I feel like AEW is a very bloated roster right now. And so I do think that New Japan should be trying to do what they can to retain the services of Gabe Kidd and making sure that he's locked in for the future. And especially with this whole Kenny Omega match, one thing they could have done better, and again, I don't know if they knew when this match was happening, if this was a plan all along, but it's almost very similar to the Umino Sabre situation where New Japan really didn't do a good job of completely heating Gabe Kidd up this year. I feel like Gabe Kidd worked really hard to get himself over this year with the promos, with the way he's wrestling. He did have some big wins throughout the year. Also, he had the great feud of Eddie Kingston, and he's a strong openweight champion. But they haven't pushed him to that tippy top level, in that main event level, to where it made sense for him facing Kenny Omega. Like, I would have loved if he, the whole year, was in that main event picture and elevated to that main event scene and was challenging for, one of the heavyweight titles, or, doing more in that main event picture to get him into this match with Kenny Omega. Just like with Umino, I wish, Umino would have had a better year going into this match with Sabre. Obviously, I like Umino and Gabe Kidd, but the booking would have made both these matches better had both guys had stronger years and were pushed more in the main event scene. So that is Gabe Kidd and Sonata, and they were our favorites to win this thing. And right now they're on the losing streak, but it's still early in the tournament. They have time to turn it around. I still think as of right now they're still a favorite, even though there is some tension and they're losing. I think that if you want Gabe represented on both nights, a lot of guys are doing double duty. I think putting him in that tag title match on night one would be a good spot for him. So moving on, next team up here, we have the Bullet Club team of Kenta and Chase Owens, who are 0-3 with 0 points. So on night one, we had them losing to Bishamon. Night 3, they lost to Gabe and Sonata. And then on night 5, losing to Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb. So yeah, I don't really have a ton to say about Kenta and Chase Owens. They've been fine. These guys were former tag team champions this year, and but they are getting blown out the water here, though. And I guess that maybe that is a little bit surprising, because I do feel like when it comes to both Kenta and Chase Owens, they do try to protect them a little bit and do give them a lot of heelish wins. But these guys have been eating a ton of losses here so far, and and Chase is not the only one getting pinned. Kenta's getting pinned sometimes here too. So both guys are eating losses here and are not building a ton of momentum up. Out of their matches, I guess maybe the Bishamon match, if you really want to watch a Kenta Chase Owens match. But you could totally skip all their stuff. Maybe watch the Bullet Club beat down just to see the intensity that Gabe and Sonata had, beating up these guys. And also there was one of the undercard matches I did watch one night, the preview for the Bullet Club vs. Bullet Club match. Kenta and Gabe, they were really jaw-jacking a lot during that match, and there was a lot of intensity there, so that carried over into the match on night 3. So yeah, I guess maybe that would be, my only pseudo recommendation for Chase and Kenta, sitting at 3 losses and 0 points. Their chances of winning are not looking good right now. They really would have to rebound. They would have to win their next 4 matches and get to 4-3, and then hope and pray that other teams are only get the 8 points, especially these 3 teams that they lost to. They got to hope that Bishamon and War Dogs and United Empire get to 4-3, and then but even or worse than that, they need those guys. They need those teams to go 3-4, because even if they do go 4-3 with all of their teams, they would still lose by tiebreaker. So yeah, they need all those teams to go 3-4, which I feel like for a lot of those teams, it's very unlikely. So, I mean, you could hypothetically give what Joe Lanza likes to call the one red X to Kenta and Chase right now. They're technically still alive, but if you kind of look at things, how they will play out, they are probably not winning this thing. And then that takes us to the last team here in the A block, the team of Alex Zane and Ryusuke Taguchi. Funky Sauce, they are also sitting at 0-3 with 0 points. So on night 1, they lost to LIJ. Night 3, they lost to Newman and Cobb. And then on night 5, they lost to Sabre and Oiwa. They have some questions here. I'll answer these as I talk about this team. So first from Les Commission 7252 says, X being Taguchi was disappointing, but I have enjoyed the partnership between him and Zane. Are you guys happy that he finally has new gear for the time being? Yes, I'm very happy that Taguchi has new gear. That's something that we have talked about a lot on this show, how horrible Taguchi's gear is. Not necessarily like the design, but he would wear the same set of tights for so long that they had holes in them, and the letters will be peeling off. So Taguchi does have new gear to match Alex Zane. They are this new team and Funky Sauce. And yeah, I was a bit disappointed with Taguchi being the mystery partner for Alex Zane. Usually when you get that X, that mystery partner, it is some kind of debut or outsider, like somebody that's not on the roster. I think it's very rare that you get an X and it is a guy on the roster. I'm sure they've done it in other scenarios, but I feel like in more modern times, when you see the X, you're usually expecting a return or a debut. And we didn't get either of that. We got Ryusuke Taguchi. Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's World Tag League. I'm not going to get too upset about it, but it's a little bit baffling. Like, why not just advertise, just say it's going to be Zane and Taguchi, and they form this team, Funky Sauce, and they're going to debut in the World Tag League. Like, I would have just rathered they had announced it ahead of time than to do this whole build-up of X, and you have everybody on social media, people sending us questions. Who is the X going to be? Who could it possibly be? And, everybody's, wildly speculating and, mentioning Speedball Mike Bailey and Chima and all kinds of names. El Lindemann. People are throwing all kinds of names out there, and, just ended up being Taguchi, which I guess is fine, but why try to hype it up as some kind of big mystery? So yeah, it is what it is. Definitely, would have preferred Lance Archer come back for Monster Sauce, and who knows, maybe they were going to go with Monster Sauce, but then I'll see Archer has recently joined the Don Callis family and is teaming up with Brian Cage and is involved in that storyline there. So maybe the switch to Taguchi was a last minute thing. He was the only person at the time that made sense, but yeah, it is what it is. Again, not going to go too crazy about it. Next question here from Doc in the Discord. How effective is Taguchi's butt? Well, it's not that effective considering that they are 0-3 right now and have not won a match. Next question from @OldTrev on Twitter. Are you amused at Taguchi's new gear as I have been? I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the gear looks good. I think he also did a good job to match the Alex Zane aesthetic, and they do look like a team. And it's fine. But I mean, I'm kind of over the Taguchi shenanigans. I feel like he's kind of long in the tooth right now. So I mean, I don't find Taguchi as hilarious as maybe some other people do, or maybe newer fans do. I've had my belly full of Taguchi antics. Next question here from @WillProWrestling. Were you surprised or just disappointed when they went with Taguchi as X? Again, it was a little bit of both. I mean, definitely disappointment because Zayn did cut this big promo on night one, which he totally botched. Alex Zane, I like the guy. I think he's a very good wrestler, super talented, super athletic, but that guy is just he's not a good promo. And they gave him the opportunity to cut a promo and introduce his partner. He did a flub a little bit on some of the lines there, but and for it to just be Taguchi. Initially, when he came out, it's like, are you serious? Like, Taguchi, of all people, why does it have to be Taguchi? But that was my initial reaction, and I was like, whatever. It's World Tag League. They're probably not going to win a ton of matches, which as of right now, they're 0-3. And it does kind of seem like a waste of a spot because they're not reached out to anybody else. But again, it is World Tag League, so I'm not going to complain too much. Swig of water here. Next question from Barry Walsh. He said, what was the point in the cost to bring in Alex Zane? I like Zane, but it's clear New Japan or Zane himself won't be his main focus, so why not just use someone on the roster? Does it really merit the cost to fly someone in to team with Taguchi? I have no problem with them bringing in Alex Zane. He's a very talented guy, great high flyer. The Monster Sauce team was very good. That was one of my favorite teams from last year's World Tag League, and I thought that him and Archer gel really well together and ended up being a really good team. And so I have no problem bringing him in. It is who are you teaming with him? And I'm guessing that this was probably a last minute thing with the Archer heel turn and joining the Don Callis family. I don't think there's a waste in cost of bringing Zayn over. I think it's a waste of putting him with Taguchi. There's so many other guys that you could have put Alex Zane with. I'm sure there's other heavyweights that are, non-affiliated or Hantai that he could have teamed up with. Or, I'm sure there are other independent guys that have been in New Japan before or have New Japan connections or, some kind of guy from the Japanese indie scene. I feel like there were definitely people that you could have dug into to get out to the team with Zayn here. So, yeah, for me, the problem is not bringing Zayn over. The problem is picking Taguchi as his partner. Well, that's going to wrap up discussion on the A block. I'm going to move over now to the B block, and we will start at the top of the block with Evil and Ren Narita. So these guys, they are 2-0 with 4 points. So on night 2, they defeated Bolton Oleg and Toriano. And then on night 4, they defeated Taichi and Taka Michinoku. It's House of Torture here, guys. Close your eyes and picture a House of Torture match. And that's what we've gotten on night 2 and night 4. There have been tons of shenanigans and interference. We've had Dick Togo interfering in both matchups. They did the dick to dick contact with the push-up bar and to Taka in that match on night 4. And in that matchup, you had a great near submission where it seemed like Taka was going to tap out. I think it was Evil, and then the normal, they ring the bell. They think they've won. That led to a whole bunch of shenanigans. So in both matches, we've had Dick Togo also being the factor and causing interference, and we've seen the low blows, removing the turnbuckle pads. You're getting all the House of Torture shenanigans, and we've got that on both nights so far. So I would say definitely skip on both of these matchups here. And it seems like we are going with the Gato booking trope of having these guys win and be on the top of the block in the first half of the tournament, and then you're hoping and praying that they don't go through to the finals and some team knocks them out, which I'm guessing is going to be the scenario here, especially with both guys having Tokyo Dome matchups. Evil facing Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Ren Narita will be defending that NJPW World TV title. So they both have big matches come January 4th. So I think we will see the normal Gato booking trope here where we're going to get heat. We're going to have these guys win a lot in the beginning, and then they will start getting foiled and start losing. So the next team to talk about here, the LIJ team of Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi. They are sitting at 1-1 with 2 points. So on night 2, they defeated the former IWGP Tag Team Champions, the TMDK team of Mad Mikey Nichols and Hysterical Shane Haste. And then on night 4, they lost to Bolton Oleg and Toru Yano. Naito and Hiromu, I think a lot of people want to see these guys win the tournament and bring some legitimacy to the tag team division. I don't think that's going to happen. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks now, I feel like this is the setup for them to have the singles match come January 4th. And so right now they're 1-1. I think they'll get some more wins and be a highly ranked team, but I don't see them going to the finals or even winning this tournament. But they've been fine so far. The match of TMDK, the first few nights 1 through 4 are in a lot of smaller cities or these gymnasiums. And I feel like the guys kind of treat these like house shows and they're not going out there and completely killing themselves. The TMDK match was a nice 3.5 matchup. I wouldn't say you have to go out of your way to watch it, but it was a fine matchup. And then the Yano and Bolton match was just filled with a lot of shenanigans. There's always shenanigans with Yano and Naito and Yano and Hiromu, a lot of history there. And so the match started where, Naito and Hiromu, they're kind of like crawling, essentially, like very slowly walking to the ring because Yano is complaining. He wants him to hurry up. He needs to go back to his bar to serve the regulars. Yano's not usually in the main event, so usually after he wins, he can dip out and go to the bar. And so he was complaining and wanted them to hurry up and get in the ring, take their gear off, all that stuff. So it was your whole total Yano shenanigans all throughout this matchup, and the finish came off very sloppy here, where you had Bolton. He threw Hiromu like in a crossbody. He threw Hiromu onto Naito, and then Yano, then he tried to roll them up as after Bolton threw Hiromu, and I think that the momentum of Hiromu flipping over Naito was supposed to lead into the schoolboy, but it just didn't work out well. And you had this kind of sloppy pin, and then Bolton jumped on top of Yano to kind of keep both guys down. So it was this weird, wacky, convoluted double pin looking thing. But Bolton and Yano get that big upset victory. And post-match, Yano's kind of promo, he's like, I'm sorry. I know you fans wanted, you were here for Naito. You wanted a roll call, but I don't care about reading the room. I want to win the tournament. So, yeah. So if you like the Yano shenanigans, if you're a Yano fan, maybe you might want to watch that. But if you want to watch one thing, they've only had 2 matches thus far. I would say watch the TMDK match. So then moving on to the next team of Taichi and Taka Michinoku. They are also sitting at 1-1 with 2 points. On night 2, they defeated the IWGP Tag Team Champions, Great Okan Hanare. And then on night 4, losing to the House of Torture. So this is a night 2 win, big upset over the Tag Team Champions. The whole story here was Hanare was underestimating Taichi, Taka Michinoku, and overlooking Taka. And so the whole match, Hanare is kind of cracking jokes and taking this guy lightly. But, he made the big mistake there to take the legend, Taka, lightly. And that led to Taichi being able to hit the Black Mephisto on Great Okan to get the pin for the team. Taka holding Hanare back while Taichi pinned Okan. So really big upset win there, because again, with a team that has Taka on it, I expect them to not win anything at all. I'm expecting Taka to eat a lot of falls. So it was a big, first night upset, and this is setting up Taichi. It looks like he's going to be challenging for KOPW. So post-match, he grabbed both the KOPW title and the tag team titles. So setting himself up there for a double title scenario, but it does seem like Taichi will be Okan's last challenger of the year. Normally they do that last match during the Road to Tokyo Dome tour towards the end of December. So I'm assuming that's where that match will happen, and we will get the last match to determine who will be the final and actual 2024 KOPW champion. But yeah, so out of these matches, the Okan Hanare match, it wasn't a blowaway matchup. It wasn't, a match you're going to put in your notebook, but it was a fun matchup, and, to watch the upset there, I think would be a fun watch. And, Taichi mixing it up with Okan Hanare was really good. So if you want to watch a just four guys matchup, that would be the one to watch. So let's move on to the TMDK team of Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols. So also sitting at 1-1 with 2 points. So night 2, they lost to Hiromu and Naito, like I just mentioned. And then on night 4, bouncing back by defeating the Natural Classics of Stevie Philippe and Tom Philippe, the Philippe brothers, the Natural Classics from New Japan, Tamashi. So, TMDK, it's only 2 matches, but, they've just been fun. Like I mentioned, the LIJ match was a good matchup, a very good matchup. That 3.5 range matchup. It was good. And then the match with the Philippe brothers was fine. It was one of the first tournament matches on night 4. There wasn't a ton of juice to it. It wasn't. I wouldn't even say it was a very good matchup. It was a fine matchup, and Shane Haste was making jokes about saying, "Oh, he's taking the World Tag League very seriously," but he sounded very sarcastic. So I don't know. We've kind of talked about these guys, and especially this year, it just feels like they're not really going out there and completely doing all they can do. I feel like Haste is just kind of having fun right now and not really trying to prove like they are the best tag team in the world or anything. So, and again, especially when it comes to a lot of these smaller cities or smaller crowds, I feel like Haste goes into house show mode, and he's not really going out there to kill himself. Where I feel like Nichols goes out there and tries to have a hard-hitting match every time he goes out there. So they've been fine. You can watch the LIJ match if you want, but so far they haven't really knocked my socks off. So moving on to the next team, the Philippe brothers, Natural Classics. They are also 1-1 with 2 points. They defeated Tanahashi and Jado on night 2, and then on night 4, like I mentioned, losing to Haste and Nichols. And we did have a question here from @Red Bear Hugh on Blue Sky. Says thoughts on the Philippes. I've seen plenty of them on the Aussie Indies. I think Tom's been good, but Stevie is a natural high flyer, high flying babyface, and I think he struggles as a heel. So thanks for that insight, Red Bear Hugh. So far they have been fine. They really haven't had they've only had 2 matches, at least 2 tournament matches. They have had some undercard matches, but I haven't watched those yet. Or actually, I'm not watching them at all. But, they do the multi-man undercard stuff. But as far as straight up tags, they've had 2 tag league matches so far. So not a whole ton to show off, but these have been fine. They had Tanahashi and Jado on their first tournament night. So you're not going to get a whole ton out of a old Tanahashi and an even older Jado. And then, like I mentioned with TMDK, I feel like they were just kind of in house show mode, and yeah. And so far, Natural Classics, they have been fine. They haven't blown me away. I would have preferred, West Coast Wrecking Crew, Grizzled Young Veterans, bring in Top Flight. Like, I would have loved some other outside tag team to come in here. But obviously, the tournament's still early. These guys could come around and impress me, but so far they're not doing it. They're fine. They haven't been bad. They haven't been great. They've just been fine. Which in a tournament like this, you don't want just fine. You want some teams that are going to be very good to great. So sitting with 2 points, I don't think that they're going to win. I can see that maybe they'll get some more wins, but I could see them being a 3 and 4 tag team. So let's move on here to the next team of Toriano and Bolton Oleg. So they are 2/3 of the Never Openweight 6-man tag team champions. They are sitting at 1-1 with 2 points. So on night 2, they lost to Evil and Narita, and then night 4, they came back and defeated Hiromu and Naito. So again, we're getting a lot of the Yano shenanigans here with these teams, and again, if you like the Yano stuff, like, you're going to enjoy the LIJ match they had on night 4. The night 2 match was just riddled with House of Torture shenanigans. I don't think that these guys are going to win, but I mean, if you wanted to pick a team that's not the champions, that's not TMDK from this block, I guess that would probably be the strongest team, especially since they are the Never 6-man champs and they don't have a matchup yet. And with Tanahashi already facing Evil at Wrestle Kingdom, I don't see how we can get a Never 6-man match going. So unless those guys drop the belts before the Tokyo Dome. So if you want to get Bolton and Yano on the card, having them win the World Tag League could be it. And you have them go against Okan and Hanare. But I don't know. I always think it's weird when the challengers caught the same block of the champions and to do a immediate rematch. Obviously, we've seen it in the past, but I would prefer for the winners of this tournament to come out of the A block, so we're getting a fresh matchup for the Tokyo Dome. So 2 more teams here left in the B block. So we had the tag team champions, Great Okan and Hanare, also sitting at 1-1 with 2 points. So on night 2, they lost to Taka and Taichi. And then on night 4, they defeated Tanahashi and Jado. So yeah, I mentioned that Taichi Taka upset earlier. So that's a really fun matchup here. And I don't know what's gotten into Taka lately, but I feel like the last year or so, like, anytime he's out there, he's just wrestling super hard and is putting in a ton of effort. So again, this is not a match that is going to be a tag team match of the year contender. It's probably not above 4 stars. It's probably not 4 stars, but it was a fun matchup, and the fact that they pulled that upset over Hanare and Okan was just a fun sight to see there. And then Okan and Hanare's other match against Tanahashi and Jado, it was fine. I mean, Tanahashi is doing the best that he can right now, and then Jado is Jado. So, I mean, there's not much you can really do with those 2 guys. So, it was fine. And Okan and Hanare get their first win here. So, the B block, as of this recording, we only have 2 matches in. So, I highly suspect that these guys are going to get some more wins this week and have a more positive point total. I don't think they're going to make it to the finals. I mean, you could do that, but again, if you have them go to the finals, they'll probably lose to whoever's winning the A block, which means you would then set up an immediate rematch of the league finals. So, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I guess you could do that, or you could do the champions win the whole thing and then name their challenger. One interesting note on commentary, they have continued to mention that the Young Bucks will be a part of Wrestle Dynasty. I know there's been a lot of questions on whether or not they will be a part of that match since, they're not going with the direction of Kenny and Tanahashi versus the Bucks. And so I know a lot of people were asking, oh, those guys still going to be in the tournament or part of the show? Or are they still going to be there? So it does seem like they're still booked, because at least on English commentary, Charlton mentioned it several times that they are set for the Tokyo Dome and that they'll be who will they wrestle. So I guess on an off chance, I mean, you could have Okan and Hanare win the whole league, and then in typical Young Bucks faction, you have them shoot a promo video and say they're challenging the tag champs at the Tokyo Dome. And so you could end up having Hanare and Okan versus Young Bucks, which, I mean, that's an interesting matchup. I'm not sure if that is the match I would book for the Young Bucks. I mean, if I had to pick a team right now in New Japan, I think it's Catch 2-2 versus Young Bucks is the match I would want to see. But we will see what they do. And then the last team here, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado, they are sitting at 0-2, 0 points. So night 2 losing to the Natural Classics. Night 4 losing to Okan and Hanare. Like I mentioned, there's not much else to really say about these guys. They're fine. Obviously, this was supposed to be Tanahashi and ELP, El Phantasmo, who is back home recovering from some kind of cancerous tumor that he tweeted about a few weeks ago. So, yeah, he's going to be out indefinitely until, obviously, he's healed up there. So, this is supposed to be him and Tanahashi. You know, there's merch if you want to support. There is some Tanahashi and ELP merch that was going to be released for this tournament. They did still release it, so you can buy those combo shirts. But yeah, it's unfortunate that ELP had to miss this tournament, because it did feel like they were kind of doing something cool there with that story and him coming to Hantai. So I mean, Jado is no ELP. We're not seeing any flips or super kicks from Jado. So it's just one of these teams that it's not going to be a ton of fun to watch. They're going to lose a lot, and I mean, I could see this team not winning one match at all. Which would suck for Tanahashi. And obviously, with him going up into the Dome against Evil, like, I don't think you should do that, but at this rate, I could see them doing that. So, yeah, that's it for the B block. I had some other questions here. I'll answer those, and then I'll go up into the schedule that's coming up this week for World Tag League. So, first from Rambone Slam Pig, he says, I've fallen woefully behind on World Tag League. Is there any night so far that you would recommend as a front-to-back compelling watch, or would cherry-picking matches be a better plan? Rambones, man, just cherry-pick. There, as of right now, there is no show that from beginning to end is worth watching, and you got to remember they're doing a lot of multi-man preview stuff the first half of the card. So if I were you, watch all the Young Lion matches, because those have been really entertaining. That's what I've been doing. Like, I think night 1 was the only night that I've actually watched from beginning to end. Actually, night 1 and 2 were the only nights I watched from beginning to end. And then night 3, 4, and 5, I watched the Young Lion matches, and then I skipped immediately to the Tag League matches. And yeah, when they're in these smaller buildings and smaller crowds, like, it's not the best atmosphere, and the crowd's they're not super loud, and the guys are in house show mode, and they're not killing themselves, and it can come off as kind of a bleak watch at times. And so, you know, the first 4 nights of the tour was kind of that bleak crowd scenario that you get for some of those shows. And I get it. I mean, you got to tour the small cities, and you got to do your house show loop and make the towns or whatever, but it's just not always the most entertaining thing to watch. So, you know, unfortunately for me, as a New Japan podcaster, I got to watch at least all the tournament matches to keep up on this thing. But if you as listeners and fans, if you don't want to be locked into this thing, definitely cherry pick. Watch Young Lions. Like I was mentioning, Bishamon against LIJ was really good. Umino and Hanma against Zach and Oiwa was really good. War Dogs against Suji and Shingo was really good. So those have been some of the standout matchups there to check out. So let's see here. Next question from King of the North. I got a question. Can we ban the Australians from tag leagues unless it's Caveman Ugg and TMDK? Jack Bonza stinks, the Velocities failed, and the Natural Classics stink. Well, I don't want to get any heat with Sir Sam or Chris Things, both Australian residents. I don't want any heat on the Australians, and I'll see we're pals with Robbie Eagles. So yeah, don't want any heat with the Australians, but I see what you're saying here. Natural Classics have been fine. I haven't seen enough yet to completely write them off, but they haven't blown me away. Jack Bonza again, he's fine. I wouldn't say he stinks. He's just fine. And then the Velocities, I wouldn't say the Velocities failed. I mean, obviously they didn't win Super Junior Tag League, but I thought they were a fun watch, and I would like to see the Velocities back. But I could live without seeing Jack Bonza again. Like if he just wants to stay in Tamashi and booking himself to win tournaments, that's fine. And Natural Classics, I mean, like I said, 2 matches in, they have not blown me away. And maybe I will come to the conclusion that they stink. But as of right now, I just think that they're fine. Like they have all the mechanics there of pro wrestling, tag team wrestling, but they haven't blown me away. They haven't really grabbed this opportunity to, really show out. So as of right now, they're fine, but I could live without them never coming back at this point. Next question from MJ.PR says, thank God we are back in Corkin. These non-Corkin houses have been deathly quiet. Do you think it's because they're outside of Tokyo/Osaka, or because this tag league has been generally uninteresting? It's probably more to do with them being outside of Tokyo and Osaka. When you go into some of these smaller towns, some of these rural towns, you just don't draw as big of crowds. And some of those buildings they're not necessarily, they don't look like they're super tall, but they do look super wide. And when you have like a small crowd in a kind of wide building, the sound doesn't really, echo throughout towards the ring. It kind of dissipates throughout the building, kind of goes up and you really don't hear. So even if these crowds are super lively, which they're not, it's probably going to be hard for that to come across on camera. So yeah, I think it's more of the areas they're going into. Because I do feel like they've tried to make the lineup interesting by putting stars in it. So, you have Saber, you have Shingo, you have Naito, you have all the top stars in the league. So you would think that with those stars, they would draw more and you would get more reactions. But I will do a attendance analysis at some point to compare this year to last year and see how the numbers are looking. But when you get some of these smaller 500 crowds and some of these bigger buildings, it's just not going to sound good, and you're going to see the empty seats, and you're just going to get that just bleak atmosphere. And then again, the guys, when they get in those kind of buildings and towns, they're more into house show mode, and they're kind of just hitting their big spots and trying to make the crowd happy, which is fine for just a house show. But these are televised, quote unquote, televised matchups. So, yeah, that is always a rough part of World Tag League. Let's see, next question here from Def Triangle 720. which teams have impressed you so far in this year's tag league? Let's see here. Let me go back up to the lineup. So far, there's not really been any team in B block that's really impressed me. I mean, there are only 2 matches in, but so far everybody in B block has been fine. I guess surprising, obviously, Taka and Taichi getting a win over the tag champions was huge, and they're working hard. But I mean, I kind of expect what they're doing, so I wouldn't say that I'm really impressed. So yeah, B block has not been impressing me at all. B block can be painful to watch at times. Let's see, in the A block, probably the teams. I'll probably say Cobb and Newman. They've gelled really well together as a team. I mean, Bishamon's always great. Zach and Oiwa have been impressive together as a team. Shingo and Suji. So some of those teams there in the A block. So A block definitely the stronger block here between the both blocks, and then the more impressive teams, coming from that block. Death Triangle also asks, Sue, do you think this tag league has benefited more from having stories being amplified during the tournament? I don't know if it's benefited or not. I mean, I need to analyze like the attendance numbers and see like if that's helping with attendance. I really don't think it's helping with fan interest because in my little small circle of the world, a lot of the Western New Japan fans that I talk to are not really locked in to World Tag League. They've been cherry picking or not watched it at all. And we are getting angles. You know, we did have Umino pin Zach. We had the Claudio video package. We had the Gabe Kid accepting Kenny's challenge. We're having the newly turned Sonata kind of being Bull Club. So I feel like there's a lot of storyline stuff. We had Taichi beating Great Khan it's going to get a KOPW shot. So they are doing angles and stuff to build towards Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty, Road to Tokyo Dome. And so I do think, at least for me, that is very helpful because it's just not a throwaway show. At least there are stuff happening. They are developing story. They're pushing things forward. But I don't know if it is benefiting the tournament overall as far as drawing wise. I think if you are a New Japan fan and you're locked in and you're watching this tournament, I think it will help you pay attention because they are doing stuff. But if you're not super locked in, or if you don't watch, then you're missing this stuff. And I don't think that what they're doing is so big that it's drawing those people in who are not watching. And let's see, his last question here. Are there any matches you recommend someone to watch from this year's Tag League? So I recommended some earlier. So that's it for the questions for World Tag League. So we have several nights of back-to-back action coming up this week. So night 6 will pick up tomorrow. So probably as you're listening to this show on November 26th. So we're going to have another Young Lion matchup with Daiki Nagai taking on Masatora Yasuda. So that's probably going to be a draw there. Then we're going to have some undercard matchups, and then the B block will be back in action. So we'll have Bolton Oleg and Toriano against the Natural Classics. We will have Tanahashi and Jado versus Nichols and Haste. Hiromu and Naito versus Taichi and Taka. And then Great Okan and Hanare versus Evil and Ren Narita in the main event. So I could see Bolton and Yano winning. I could see TMDK is probably going to win against Tanahashi and Jado. Naito and Hiromu will beat Taka and Taichi. And then in the main event, I don't know, because with Evil and Narita, they're 2-0 right now, and so I could see them potentially getting to 3-0 before they start losing. But I think I'm gonna go with Okan and Hanare getting the win here. And need to take a swig of water here for the working man. So moving on to night 7, which will be November 27th. We'll have Sho Makato taking on Masatora Yasuda as the Young Lion match. So then there'll be some undercard stuff after that. And then the A block will be in action. We will have Umino and Hanma against Zayn and Taguchi. Then we will have Newman and Cobb versus the War Dog team of Kid and Sonata. We'll have Kenta and Owens against Shingo and Tsuji. And then the main event will be Bishamon versus TMDK, Oiwa, and Sabre. So some really good matchups there. I'm going to go with Gabe and Sonata being the first team to beat Newman and Cobb. We'll probably have Shingo. I don't know. Kenta and Owens are 0-3. I think we're going to get some shenanigans here, and they're going to upset Shingo and Tsuji. And then in the main event, I think Bishamon, I think they're going to pin Oiwa after a Shoto. Then moving on to night 8, which will be November 28th. Young Lion match will be Daiki Nagai versus Masatora Yasuda. And then there'll be undercard. Then we'll jump into the B block. So we got Natural Classics versus Hiromu and Naito. We have Bolton Oleg and Toriano versus Hanare and Okan. House of Torture, Evil and Narita versus Nichols and Hayes. And then the main event will be Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado versus Taichi and Taka Michinoku. We did have a question here from MMFDT20 on Blue Sky saying, hey, great to see you on Blue Sky. My question, what did the good people of Ibaraki do to deserve Jado versus Taka in their main event? I don't know what they did. I don't feel too bad with them with Taka, because at least Taka is working really hard. Jado is rough out there. So very interesting. Must be a pretty small town to throw Taka and Jado in there in the main event slot. So as far as predictions, I'm gonna guess Hiromu and Naito over the classics. I can see Okan and Hanare being Bolton and Yano. I'll go with Hayes and Nichols beating Evil and Narita, and then I will go with I don't know. I feel like Tanahashi and Jado need to get a win here, so I'll go with them getting the win. And so that will take us to night 9, which will be November 29th. So the Young Lion match will be Sho Makato and Daiki Nagai. Then moving into tournament action, A block, we're going to have, hold on, is that? We're doing back-to-back. No, that was B block, was night 8. So night 9, A block. So Umino and Hanma will take on the War Dogs team of Gabe, Kid, and Sonata. Then we'll have Owens and Kenta versus Oiwa and Zack Sabre. And then we'll have Shingo and Tsuji versus Newman and Cobb. So I would go Bishamon over Funky Sauce. War Dogs over Umino and Hanma. Oiwa. Well, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to completely beat out Chase and Kenta. You could have Kenta get his win back over Oiwa, but Oiwa is also challenging for the strong title. So you know what? Screw Chase and Kenta. I'm going for Oiwa and Zack winning. And then main event, LIJ and United Empire. I'm going to go with Shingo and Tsuji on that one. Then night 10, which will be December 1st, next Sunday, we're going to have Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda as a Young Lion match. And then jumping into B block, we'll have Bolton and Yano. They'll take on Taichi and Taka. Natural Classics will take on Evil and Narita. Tanahashi and Jado will take on LIJ. And United Empire will face TMDK. So I will go with Bolton and Yano over Just 4 Guys. I will go with Evil and Narita over the Classics. I will go with LIJ over Tanahashi and Jado. And then I'll go with TMDK getting their win back over Okan Hinare. And then the last night that will happen before we record again next week will be on Monday, December 2nd. And this will be night 11 of World Tag League. So we'll open up with Sho Makato versus Masatora Yasuda. And then jumping into B block, it will be, jumping into A block, it will be Umino and Hanma versus Chase and Kenta. And then War Dogs versus Funky Sauce. Bishamon versus Newman and Cobb. And then the main event will be Shingo Takagi and Yoda versus Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. That match should be great. Which I think they had a match already. I think that was really great on one of these. The build to Zack and Shingo, that one of those Korkins. I think it was on the Super Junior Tag League tour. That was a really great match where Tsuji pinned Oiwa in that match to get the win. So I'm going to go with TMDK getting the win back on those guys here. So that is World Tag League. Pretty packed schedule on this Thanksgiving Black Friday week. So I know a lot of people will have time off. I'll be off throughout this week. So going to have to find my time in between friends and family to watch this World Tag League because they're giving us no breaks here. We're getting night after night after night. So by the next time we come back, we'll be at night 11 on this thing. Pretty crazy. So that is it for World Tag League coverage. Just got one news item there, some other questions, and then we will wrap this thing up. So we did get an announcement of the International Women's Cup, which will be happening on January 5th at Wrestle Dynasty. So what's going to happen is you're going to have AEW, Ring of Honor, and Stardom, and CMLL are going to do these qualifying four-way matches. So the winner of each one of the company's four-ways will then face off in a four-way at Wrestle Dynasty to be crowned the first ever International Women's Cup. The winner will be able to challenge for the title of her choice. And so I know that I think for the Ring of Honor four-way has been announced. I think it's going to be Athena, Red Velvet, Billy Starks, and Layla Hirsch. And I believe the CMLL four-way was announced, but I don't have those names in front of me right now. So that we still need to get the four names from Ring of Honor. And, the Stardom names might have been announced too, but I don't have those in front of me either. But we still need to get the four AEW names. So that's coming up. So those four ways will be happening, and the match will be happening at Wrestle Dynasty. Did have a question here from Death Triangle 720. Thoughts on the Wrestle Dynasty card so far, and also Last Commission 7252 asked, from looking at the Wrestle Dynasty card that we currently have, what is looking to be the main event? Omega vs. Kid seems like the main event, unless they're still planning to create a main event that hasn't been promoted yet. So overall, I think the card looks really nice. There's going to be a lot of great matchups in there. I don't know how it's going to draw at the Tokyo Dome. We've seen how some of these double dome stuff draws, and usually one night ends up being a lot stronger as far as attendance than the other night. But I mean, it is a weekend, and I feel like they're putting big stars on the card. So also you got Kenny Omega's on there, Zack Sabre Jr. Being on there, and so also I'm sure they're going to build more people on the card. But so far, I'm liking it. I think Kenny and Gabe Kidd is going to be great. Tsuji and Jack Perry will be very good. The women's four-way, depending on who's in it, could be very good. Claudio and Umino will be very good. Zack Sabre and Ricochet will be great. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty solid card. I mean, I'm liking it so far. But yeah, I do have a hard time seeing what is the main event. Oh, also there's going to be Takeshita and Shingo, one of those guys versus Ishii, which is probably going to be Takeshita. So yeah, the card is going to be great. It's going to be a great card. But yeah, I don't know what the main event is. I guess you could go Gabe Omega, but I don't know. I feel like they're going to want to have a Japanese guy in the main event. And I think it's also going to probably depend on who are the champions going into Wrestle Dynasty. Because if Zach retains, like Zach Ricochet doesn't really scream Tokyo Dome main event for me. I guess if Umino beats Zach, I guess you could do Umino Claudio as the main event, because you have your young Japanese star defending the title against a foreign juggernaut. But again, I mean, just on paper, it doesn't really scream main event to me. I think the biggest star on the card is Kenny Omega, between both brands. But we've seen that Kenny doesn't always equal main event. The Ospreay match wasn't going to end up being the main event. So, but that's probably the strongest match that they have booked on there. But we'll see. I mean, Naito is still not in a match yet for either show. So I'm sure that they're going to want to get Naito in the mix somewhere. There's several AEW guys. Swerve, who's not on there yet. Hangman Page. We don't know who the Young Bucks are facing. So there are a lot of AEW guys that could be in this thing as well. So yeah. So I don't know what the main event's going to be. I mean, I guess Gabe versus Kenny is a good guess for right now, but I think once we see the full card, it'll be a lot clearer of what they're going to do for the main event. All right, jumping into some other questions here. So, Last Commission 7252 says, Jeremy and Josh, what are you guys' feelings about the people that don't like when wrestlers carry over the fighting spirit or strong style work rate into the U.S.? Guys like Okada, Omega, Ospreay, Heyman, and Jay White continue to live through the fighting spirit. I believe these people that don't either watch or like any Japanese promotion or can't see the vision of it, as well as being used to the American style of wrestling. Yeah, I mean, for people who get upset about that stuff, I mean, there are, on one end, I really can't blame them because they're used to one style. I mean, you have a lot of fans today that have really only grown up watching WWE. So that's what they're used to. They're used to that WWE style of pacing and matchups and setups, and they really haven't seen a ton of other styles. I mean, if you're just a strictly American wrestling fan, I mean, in the last 10 to 20 years, you've pretty much just watched WWE and TNA. And so, and at times, TNA could be WWE light. So people are very used to one style, and so they just haven't been exposed, and they don't really understand the psychology of fighting spirit. And I know a lot of people think, oh, it's just no selling. They're not selling at all. Well, that's not the case. You'll see a lot of times where Ishii will fight through the pain, but then he will eventually fall down after he no sells and gets up and like powers through. He'll hit a big lariat and then he'll collapse. So a lot of guys do that. So the fighting spirit it's like it's a resilient spot. It's a defiant spot. You're refusing to go down. You have the adrenaline pumping, and when it comes to the pro wrestling, like, yes, I think selling is important, but you don't have to go like the overboard dramatic selling. Like, you don't have to like hobble and hold your knee if your knee is getting worked on the whole match. I mean, just thinking from like a combat sport perspective, like how many times have you seen in the UFC where you have guys that have gotten a lot of damage, but then that last round, that last 30 seconds, they're both just like swinging at each other and not absorbing, not selling. They're not selling pain in the UFC. They're trying to fight through the pain. And, when I did amateur wrestling in high school, I did not stop and sell if I got like slammed or, somebody had like a hammerlock cranked on me. I didn't sell my right arm the rest of the match. Like, I fought through the pain and tried to, show my fighting spirit to defeat my opponent. So I do think that sometimes selling can make pro wrestling look goofy, because you're spending this whole time, grabbing and clutching your knee or your foot or your arm, and then 5 minutes later, your arm is fine, your foot's fine, and you're jumping off and doing 450s and stuff. But don't get me wrong, selling, you do need to sell and do it right, correctly. There is a right way to sell, but I think the fighting spirit spot fits into that. I think it makes a match exciting. I think that people are just not used to that and need to learn more about what it means. It doesn't mean you're just no selling and moving forward. It means that you are, gritting your teeth. You're being defiant. You're gonna go at all costs to beat this opponent, even if it means fighting through a hurt leg or a hurt arm or hurt whatever it is. And then eventually you do show that exhaustion after the initial fire up. So yeah, the people who don't like it, sad. I mean, there's plenty of product. You can go watch WWE, you can go watch TNA. There's several stuff you can watch if you don't like the fighting spirit style being mixed into wrestling. Next question here from Neon Champion 2099 says, just getting into NJPW these past couple of months, and I was wondering if you noticed getting into it affected your view of Japanese culture. Meaning, did it change any previous knowledge you had of it, or has it made you want to learn more about topics adjacent to NJPW, Puroresu, or Japan as a country itself? Well, for me, I mean, I've always kind of been in the Japanese culture. I mean, I was a big anime fan growing up. I was locked into Toonami as a kid in the afternoon. So, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, Ronin Warriors, Yu Yu Hakusho, Sailor Moon, all that stuff. I was locked into all that stuff. Big anime fan growing up all throughout high school. So I was always really interested in Japanese culture and Japanese media. And so, I think diving into New Japan, we've been doing this show now, our 7-year anniversary, I think it's next week. So diving more in New Japan, it has been interesting just seeing how the Japanese fans react to wrestling and the approach to wrestling in Japan. And I think I do have a great appreciation for how Puroresu works and the different styles of Puroresu in Japan. I'm dying to go to Japan. I've yet to go. I'm really trying to plan for 2026 so I could be in the Dome to watch Tanahashi retire. So hopefully I can cross Japan off the bucket list in 2026. But I definitely want to go to Japan. I love the culture, the food, and the media. So next question here from Solid Deuce. Are you guys enthused for a Shota-led heel faction like others seem to be? NJPW's biggest need is a Tana replacement, and booking 3 heel factions sounds awful. What are your thoughts? I have not really seen any discussion about Umino leading a heel faction. I don't know. I don't really think that that's the way to go with him. Because he's still over with women and children, so he hasn't completely lost the crowd yet. I that's not something I really want to see. I mean, if he was getting maybe completely, I know the boos have been loud, but there's still women and children. Maybe he was getting 100% booed, maybe, but I don't know. Something needs to happen, but I don't know if him leading a heel faction is the thing. Then last of the questions here from SadGoal8860. Who do you want to see Tanahashi wrestle during his retirement year? Well, he said he's going to try to wrestle the whole roster. So, I mean, I would love to see another Shingo match. One last Zack match and one last Naito match. One more Ishii match. They had a great matchup a couple of years ago. Obviously, I would like to see him, do some cross promotional stuff in AEW. I don't know if it'll work out, but another Kenny match would be dope. I think anybody and everybody, that's great. I want to see him run it with. Sadgo's last question here. Who are your favorite Japanese wrestlers to have appeared in Western promotions? Examples being Masato Tanaka with ECW, Kenta with ROH, Takeshita with AEW, or Yuji Nagata with WCW. Those are all great examples. One of my favorites, Satoshi Kojima in the original MLW in the early 2000s. That's where I first saw Kojima and first became a fan of his work, was during that initial MLW run where he was the MLW World Champion the first time. So that was a lot of fun. Liger in WCW. But as a kid, I really didn't appreciate it probably more as I would now. But, I do remember liking Liger as a kid. So that's a good one. And then you listed a bunch of other good ones. In the more modern era, I think, Ishii's had some great runs in Ring of Honor. Also Takeshita is a lot of fun to watch right now in AEW. So yeah. Well, that is it for the questions. Going to hold on recommended match of the week. So that's going to wrap the show up here. Next week, we'll be back to review more World Tag League. And so hopefully Young Boy will be back to 100% and will join me on this World Tag League saga here. And so we'll review that next week. And then the week after that, I think we're working on something special for you guys. So stay tuned for that. And remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at SoSuplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/SoSuplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at SoSuplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts. Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.